Informative, educational, objective, inclusive, comprehensive. This is Progress Report. Updates and conversations from the Government Information Service.
Good day and welcome to another episode of Progress Report. My name is Ivan Khanna. As usual, I'm here with my lovely co-host Gleneva Hodge, who's actually the curator, star, everything behind this show. I'm going to continue to say that. People need to take me seriously. She's the one that tells me, Ivan, the community wants to hear this, the community wants to know about that. She schedules the guests. You heard on the last show that she even finds people in the parking lot and let them know that they're scheduled for this time, that time, or when are they coming. And today, we were just talking actually, and we realized like the most guests collectively we've had on this show falls under the Ministry of Social Development and Education. And today we have with us the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Social Development and Education, Mrs. Bonnie Richardson Lake. Dr. Bonnie Richardson Lake. You see, I just get in trouble. See, she corrected me even on camera now, even on air. But thank you for that. I would not want to, give you your correct title. I say that not shamefully, for the lack of a better word, with what just happened, but I'll be honest, that's one of the first things I wanted to touch on because I've heard your name for so long. Mm-hmm. How long have you been a part of the public service?
Wow, I joined the public service February 5th, 2001.
2001.
Mm-hmm.
You do the math.
Oh my
so
goodness.
almost 22 years.
Almost 22 years. And what did you do prior to that?
I worked in New York City. I worked for New York Presbyterian Hospital.
Okay.
I headed the mental health and health education section of the community health program. I worked mostly in reproductive health.
My. You see why I'm a bit humble here? Because I know you come with a wealth of experience. I've sat in several meetings with you, and I'm saying this openly, like you command the room.
Oh, well, thank you.
Literally, when everything be going on, when she speaks, if she asks a question, everybody has to stop and think. And most recently, like even in the little, the minister had a meeting with the youth, mm-hmm. and Dr. Bonnie was at the table and she's listening and she asked a question in the room and I don't know if you realize.
Yes.
So it's like,
I didn't realize. I was sitting next to her.
You were sitting next to her. Okay, good. So I'm like, man, she does it everywhere. Like she makes you think. So there's a lot going on in the ministry. It's a big ministry. It's a big ministry. There's a lot that falls under you. And we're going to touch on that today because we've had thus far Dr. Olufemike Banks Devonish. We've had Mrs. Hyacinth Bradley. We've had the minister. We've had Teacher Bren. We've had Miss Jocelyn Johnson. Yes. We've had a lot of people from the ministry. Yes. And I often see, and I say here again, it's easy to quantify when you see a road, the work being done.
Yes.
When you see a plane land, the work being done in tourism. When you see something happen in health and you see changes in rates or figures, we get a new MRI machine or something. But there's so much happening under the Ministry of Social Development. And we want to talk about that today. Yes. All things happening, all things that have happened. So we like insights and exclusives on this show. So,
you heard it first here.
You heard it first here.
That's Ivan's line.
Okay.
And just so you know, like that's a magic camera. So if you look in it, and you said it doesn't work for the minister, so it has to work for the PSS. If you look at it and you talk about money,
then it comes.
It goes directly to the premier.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I should come here more often.
and we know that your ministry definitely is one of those ministries
because we get criticized because we don't generate a lot of revenue.
Right.
But we spend.
Yes.
But the important thing about social development is that it is an investment in people. It's an investment in human capital.
Exactly.
And that's not as easily measurable as, seeing a new road or seeing a new building or whatever.
Yeah.
So we have to make sure that we invest in our people, and that's what this ministry does.
So before Gleneva takes over, like I said, it's our show. I just did a little preamble. You said something just now, and how overall, collectively, from your ministry, how do you measure the investment you've made in people? For schools, do you look at graduation and retention rates? Do you look at the ability to be employed after? For programs like the family parenting program, do you look at the success of the program in terms of how many families would have less things struggling with? How do you quantify? Because it's broad. It's extremely broad.
And there's several ways. I mean, you look at outcomes, you look at outputs, and you look at outcomes, and they're quite different. Outcomes are sort of the long-term things, and those are more difficult to measure. But when we put together a program, we try to establish targets so that we're measuring things like, okay, how many people participated, how many people showed up for a particular session, but that's more like counting beans. That's not really quantifying the effects. Okay. And that's much more difficult to do because it's hard to attribute everything that you do in the program to a behavior change. So let's say, for instance, Mrs. Bradley would have spoken about the Family First program, right?
Yes.
So we're just now launching it, so we don't have any data on what the results would be, but it's hard to know. Let's suppose you bring a bunch of parents together and you teach them about communication with adolescents, for instance. So how do we measure that down the road? Like, how do we know that our program contributed to that person being better able to speak to their child or that child being better adjusted? It's hard to do, but we try to do some proxy measures like through surveys and whatnot to see if we're actually hitting the targets that we want to be hitting.
That's nice. That's good.
But it's not an exact science.
I know it's not, and I guess that's why your department puts in all these hours, because you're one department other than emergency response services and stuff that's accessible all the time. You have SAFE.
Yes.
You have somebody that's it's.
Yeah, we have someone on call all the time for social development, for child protection matters.
Yes.
So, well, actually, probably what I should say is what departments and areas fall under the ministry.
Let's do that because we know that. Let's start there. I apologize for asking my question. We don't know.
Okay. So the Ministry of Social Development and Education obviously includes the Department of Social Development, the Department of Education, Department of Sports, Department of Youth and Culture, the Department of Probation. It also includes Gender Affairs, Psychological Services. So it's quite...
That's 7 departments.
They're not all departments. So there's 5 departments in like 3 units.
5 departments, 3 units. Wow. At the total of how many persons?
Oh, now that's a good question, because I mean, education alone, if you count all the teachers and all the support staff, I'm not going to venture a guess.
So that's exactly what I wanted to get to, because I mean, even in social development, one of the things you might probably looking at is the management of your human resources and the personalities and the issues, because teachers have challenges and issues and all kind of things. So I don't want people to think that you're just concerned about the children. You're concerned about your staff and their roles as well.
Absolutely.
Because the psyche of persons in social development, the teachers, you have a lot on your plate, like as a department head.
Yes.
That's crazy.
We do, and we don't have an employee assistance program that's dedicated to the mental health and well-being of the staff, which is really critical, I think. And I think across the public service, not just in the Ministry of Social Development and Education, that's a real need. So like Dr. Famiki, she offers a lot of programs and sessions, but really she cannot be the clinical psychologist for the public service and for the public.
Yeah, and I found out something. It's only her.
Yes.
Hint, hint. It's still
is
only her.
Is this where the money's coming?
It's still only her.
Yes.
I think you touched on something, and it is critical because within the civil service, you have so many people with so many different things that are affecting. And I just want to point out, today we are wearing our breast cancer awareness shirts in support of Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and our support goes to all who are dealing with this, whether you are the fighter yourself, the families of, and we have so many persons within the civil service who are dealing with, whether it's health issues? Are they the caretakers of persons with health issues? I get a little teary-eyed just a moment ago because you're looking at dealing even with deaths in the public service.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I've avoided this topic. I think we've recorded a couple shows, but I've avoided this. How do you deal with, because we do know that Dr. Banks is the only clinical psychologist, but how do you support the different members within your staff and the service in general? How do you provide that with what you have?
We don't do a very good job of that, if I'm to be perfectly honest. And it is a matter of resources because, yes, you try to touch base with your department heads and make sure that things are running, but we normally do that with a view to looking at, are your programs running properly, not are you mentally functioning? And really, you can't do one without the other, because if your human resources aren't well, then it's going to be more difficult for them to deliver. And we don't really do enough in that area. We don't. We really do need an employee assistance program where there are dedicated staff to looking at issues of civil servants.
So it's funny that you mentioned that, because I was having just a random conversation and it got into that, and I was like, and I'm not calling down public admin in any way, but when you're in a private sector, the HR function looks at those things. And from my limited understanding, the deputy governor, the PS of the Minister of Labor, PS of the public admin, they are the HR department for the public service.
They are. And let me look at the camera again and bring them money, because they can't do any of those kinds of things unless there's resources to do them.
Okay, so our problem is we need money.
Yeah.
So then,
psychologists and mental health professionals are not inexpensive.
I totally agree. You better pay those people. I mean, I know for a fact, like, some days, in my capacity, some days I walk into the office and I'm like, again? Because you have all these issues you have to deal with. What about the ones that are dealing with the knocking on the door 24/7?
Exactly.
I mean, that's a bit hard. And I get slightly offended when persons say the civil service isn't doing this or they aren't doing that, forgetting that they're humans too. They have children in school. They're concerned about what's happening in school. They have family in the hospital. They're concerned about that too. But they get up selflessly every day and go to work. They held this country together when COVID shut down the world.
Yeah.
Services in assisting families.
We take a lot of knocks.
That's my thing.
And in particular, I think your ministry takes
Yeah.
a lot of those knocks, because, again, you are a lot of the face front, and you come into contact with the public quite often, especially in areas where you tend to have some issues.
It's already a difficult situation.
Yes, and you're coming into contact with that. How do you, what are some of the programs that you have within your ministry that help to kind of, that the public may not be aware of, but provide assistance to them when they actually need it? You know, we've spoken about some of them. We've spoken with the minister, and we've spoken with probation. And I know there's family first. So I think we want to just kind of glide into what some of those programs are that fall under that ministry.
Can we take it, like, for instance, with Department of Social Development first?
Okay, so
Okay. So the Department of Social Development offers public assistance, several different kinds of public assistance. They offer cash transfers, which is basically money for persons who are below the poverty line.
Okay.
They offer medical treatment exemption, medical treatment overseas for those who need to go overseas. They offer assistance in funeral burials. They offer assistance. Now, these you have to qualify. It's not not anybody that walks in can have it, but there are certain means-tested assistance that they provide.
Can I ask a question before you go on? Do we have a food stamp program here, like in the U.S.?
It's not an official food stamp programs, so to speak. But we do give food vouchers.
Okay.
So we've got agreements with supermarkets.
Okay.
And if a family is in need, they can get a voucher to go and purchase food.
And just so we know, because we tend to clear things up here, the voucher is backed by cash provided by who?
The department.
The department. Department has a...
So the supermarket will then bill the department.
Okay, good. So we did just so we know, I just try to break this down at least once an episode, because people will pull some ways. The department is spending money on this program.
Yes.
It's not like we asking the supermarkets to give of themselves. The department pays this food bill. Okay.
It's not free.
It's not free. Again, it's not free. Okay.
They also have a foster care program. So for children who are not able to live at home for whatever reason, abuse, neglect, whatever have you, they're placed with families who can care for them. We also have a residential facility attached to the Department of Social Development called White Cedar for children who have been removed for reasons of care and protection.
Okay.
So
maybe we should have someone from the department on, but before we even do that, I'm really interested to hear about the foster program and White Cedar. How do you differentiate whether a child goes into White Cedar or the foster?
The preference is always the foster program.
Okay.
The preference is always to put them in a situation that's most like a home, right? But there are some children that are hard to place. There are some children that it's an emergency situation. You've got to remove them right away, and there might not be a foster family available. And one of the things that we're looking at is recruiting more foster families. I think we have, 19 of them now. To recruit more foster families and to do more training with them, so that we have people that are trained up to take children who might have special needs, or adolescents are another hard area. Like, people don't want adolescents who've maybe been running away from home or misbehaving or that type of thing. So those kinds of children are more difficult to place. But the department has been looking at beefing up training for foster families, and the Family First program that Mrs. Bradley would have spoken to you about.
Yes.
There are some sort of collective audiences that we're going to be targeting with that program. One of them is our foster carers, so that they have some of the skills that are required to deal with what in some cases are difficult.
And for anyone listening, if they are interested in becoming a foster parent, is that something that they can call up the department?
Absolutely.
Say, I know that there's always a need for foster parents. I'd like to.
Yep.
So that is an avenue.
That is absolutely an avenue.
Okay, and they just call the department.
497-2317.
2317. Let me ask you another question on that. There's always a need. There are children. I see the white van, the white Jeep dropping children to school. So I guess this Cedar place is where we'd see them going.
We've got two residential programs for children. One through the Department of Probation, which is for children, or rather boys, in conflict with the law.
Okay.
And then we have the one that's attached to the Department of Social Development, which is children in need of care and protection. So you see, I don't know which one you're seeing.
Okay, so I'm asking now. We have persons coming to the island a lot, and I had a friend. She's the booking agent for Fountain Resort and Residences in Shoal Bay, and she would bring like school supplies and stuff. She'd donate to a school. Would it be more beneficial to channel some donations of items, clothes, school supplies
We
through
would
the
be
department?
we'd be happy to receive them.
Okay, you heard it here. Those of you listening via your podcast, if you want to make donations of anything, school supplies, clothes,
Toilet paper,
paper towel, linens,
pillows,
whatever. If you want to pack something extra, you're coming on your vacation, you're coming back home, just bring it to the Department of Social Development. I think that's...
Or the Department of Probation.
Or the Department of Probation.
Depending on which...
Okay.
Or they can share.
Yeah, and they're upstairs. They're
in the same building.
The same building. I'm just looking for the easiest place to find.
Okay, good. So that's quite an extensive list of programs that fall directly under the Department of social development. And I think a lot of times people confuse there's the Ministry of Social Development
Yes.
and then there's
Yes.
the Department of
Yes.
Social Development.
People confuse that all the time.
Stop
And
making
you can
fun of me, both of you. I'm
You're people.
I'm people.
and I think we've touched on the family first and how has that been? I know you just started rolling
Right.
it out. Hyacinth was here just before you did.
So there was a launch. Yes. Ivan would know that. And so now there's actually several Family First meetings scheduled. As I said, we have some audiences that we want to target, which include parents of the children in both of our centers, foster parents, people on parole and probation. And then one of the things that Family First is also looking at is managing stress, because we talked about stress and psychosocial issues and whatnot. And so one of the things that one of the sessions that they're going to be doing are for men that work in security positions, like security firms and whatnot. They've run one once before. It went over very well, and the gentlemen were interested in repeating it, and there's others that were interested, so they're going to do a session on that as well. So, yeah.
And how soon?
Within the next 3 weeks. I don't know the exact dates.
Okay.
Okay.
That's probably fallen on me because Mrs. Bradley called me yesterday and I had to call her back and I haven't. Confession.
So by the time this is within the next 3 weeks, by the
that's
time
gonna
this
happen.
is, it should be rolling out.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Great.
Family First still, while we are on that, we learned that the program has been budding and collecting data and planning and putting together for 3 years.
Yes.
Extensive time, right? Anything else you've been doing in that time or doing now that we're going to see anything else roll out other than Family First? Because I know you have a lot of things that you're probably considering. And we like exclusives here.
Nothing new, but some of the, we're we do some programs that we do in cohorts,
Okay.
like our wellness program for overweight children.
Okay.
Is that 15? I think it.
Yes, but we're sort of morphing it now. We're expanding it, doing it
You
things
know
a bit
everything,
differently.
don't you?
No,
First time I've heard 15.
For real?
Yes.
Oh,
I told you.
I think that's dope.
I work very closely with Hyacinth.
Yeah. I tell you,
Yes.
this is her show. See, there she has the info and she's going to say, okay, this, and then she brings it up. Okay, carry on.
so there's going to be a launch of our wellness program.
Okay.
And that provides mentorship for children trying to lose weight. It also involves their doing workout sessions. It involves working with the nutritionist and the pediatrician, because we have a lot of obese children.
Yeah.
So that program should roll out in the next few weeks. So that's one that's up and coming. Also, the mental health and psychosocial support, MPSS. I don't know if Mrs. Bradley would have spoken about that. Again, there's some targeted groups, sessions that they're going to be doing on stress and psychosocial support. Mainly, for the general public.
Okay. If we can segue a little bit, you mentioned something I've complained about it for a very long time. My son is now in campus A, so he's in third form. And for the last 2.5 years, if so long, maybe the half, because we ain't willing to think, I complained every time I picked him up from school that the one thing outside the school was soda and pizza.
Yeah.
Now we have a feeding program that's in the primary schools. Hopefully it extends into the high schools at some point.
When we open the new high school, and don't ask me what.
No. So you just uncovered a whole lot. We don't edit our shows.
No, we don't. But you remember the last episode we spoke about going down rabbit holes?
Yeah, this is a
that seems
rabbit
to
hole.
be-
Careful, you don't want to open that
No, I
rabbit hole.
don't.
You want me to get
I want to
that?
open this stuff. Thanks.
All right, so
Thank you.
When we do get into the new high school is something that we want to look at.
Yes, definitely.
But I'm hoping, and I don't know the KPIs of the program, but I guess you're trying to develop healthy eating habits
Yes.
in the children from now.
Yes. So the menus that were developed in the primary school and that will be developed for the high school were developed with the nutritionists.
Okay.
So It's the idea is to provide healthy meals.
Good. So let me give you a little punch. So the children only, and I tell them, I think you were at the table when I told you guys that you're setting up the parents. So in the menus in the primary school, the children have water Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday with their meals. Friday they give them juice. They're going home for the weekend. I think they're setting up the parents to deal with that burst of the sugar infused energy.
Sugar rush. Oh,
But I love the
experiences
fact.
with that.
Oh, tell me about it. I love the fact though that attention is paid to that. I don't think we drink enough water. We're in a hot climate. I mean, I think the mechanism, the foundation that the program is built on is excellent. I just want to see it continue far into the future.
And we have to thank the
Schultz
the
Foundation.
Schultz Foundation for that donation for this pilot project that we're running now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and tell us a bit, because I know we spoke about it when the minister was here, and this was before school started. School has started, so the program has started.
It started October 1st.
October 1st.
Yes.
Which schools are it?
Adrian T.,
When
Allison, Vivian Vanterpool,
Mars too.
and Mars.
Yeah, so-
well, Vivian Vanterpool had a
Had
school
their program,
program, so
okay.
Mars.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you now have 4 schools, so you're looking at, I think, the
Well,
two...
it's 3 that are really in the pilot. VVPS sort of had their own thing going on.
Okay.
But yeah, so then we're looking to expand. We're going to do an evaluation of this pilot. And then we want to bring it to all the primary schools.
And just for the record, because I think you need to hear it again, it's not that these schools were chosen for any fun, biased reason.
The reason they were chosen is because they are schools that have kitchens already. So
you.
the Valley Primary School, which is our largest one,
Uh-huh.
doesn't have a kitchen.
Careful.
So we are looking at whether or not we may be able to use some funding from the project to construct a cafeteria. We're looking at doing that between that and government capital to see if we can get that going, because we would want to be
I
able to
think
provide Valley
this is
also.
critical, and it would work if you look.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
Okay.
you
I'm
look-
looking.
You look right into that camera and let them know. I think
Yes.
this is money
Yes.
that's going to be well spent. I wholeheartedly support that, because I see what I'm afraid of is the extreme rise that's possible in non-communicable diseases just because of they aren't making food like they used to, and the processing, and oh my goodness.
No, you're completely right, and you mentioned how hot the climate is and access to water in the primary schools. I just kind of wanted to know. I've been out for a bit, the school system, and I wanted to know: is there a mechanism where students can get water for free outside of the
schools?
feeding program?
Yeah, well, the new schools have water fountains.
You got it. That's my fault. I didn't take her there. She's been asking me for 2 months.
Okay, so the new schools, all the new schools
yeah.
have water
Water
fountains,
fountains.
so students have access. Because you said they're not making food the way that it used to, but I know we remember Valley School pipe water. And,
Yeah, that's
It takes us back to the time, because there was always water available, and I know that there was a period where schools didn't necessarily, you had to buy water. So it's
You don't have to buy water.
good. I'm happy to hear now that students have access to that water. So even if they, you know, kids, they
Yeah.
forget their water bottles, they lose their water bottles, so that they have that. So
You literally
at least they
do
get
have
that.
some children sometimes sitting all day in class from probably 7 to when they go to school 11:30 and don't drink any water.
Really?
Yeah, you have
that's
some
not-
children that don't. I mean, they think it's probably too cool. Like, I just picked up my son from school, and the first thing when he got to the office is he took up my water. I'm making a conscious effort to drink water, and he's drinking water. And I know he's too cool to walk with a bottle of water. And-
Is it uncool to drink water?
yeah, because you walk around with a spray ground bag now, and you have your little hair twisted, and you're into girls, and girls don't want to see
Girls
you
with no
walking-
water.
No.
But girls don't like.
Dry guys.
You said it, not me.
We're gonna leave that.
Yes,
We're gonna leave
right
that
there,
right there.
right there.
Because so secretly, I must let you know. Geneva has a really, what I would call, for the lack of a better word, a wordless laugh. If the joke is sweet, she gets really, really loud. And I've been trying on every show to kind of like pull it out. Almost.
Just
and she caught herself, she pulled it back. So I'm trying to get it out. So I'm dropping one or two little jokes here and there. But back to the matter at hand, before we get in trouble. We've talked about Department of Social Development. We talked about education to a certain extent.
Let's stick on education.
I was just about to ask a question on education in terms of, you want to say something?
Yes, because we have another exciting program that we're going to launch the end of this month, the Inspire Project. I don't know if anyone has spoken to you about that.
No, I've seen I've seen some sort of communications.
Yes. So it's piloting in Aurelia Kelly Primary School.
Okay.
And again, we wanted to choose a large school, and there was an IT project in the Valley School already, so we didn't go with Valley. And what it is we have worked with an organization called the Anguilla Initiative, which is a charitable organization based in the States, made up of people who love Anguilla and love to come to Anguilla and want to see Anguilla grow. So they've donated lots of money so that we can upgrade the IT infrastructure at Aurelia Kelly.
They have smart class, so they have smart boards.
Yes, so there's smart boards, there's laptops for all the teachers, there's laptops for all the students.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Okay, this is the program that there was the launch, I think, when Mr. Romney came
There was a soft launch before.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
But now that the devices are all here and IT has gotten them hooked up, so now the folks from the Anguilla Initiative are going to be here, and maybe a representative from the company who we source the laptops from may come as well.
Yeah.
And it's really to begin to infuse technology into
schools,
into the teaching, so that it's not just when school closed down because it's COVID,
right.
but to really use technology throughout.
So one of the things that might have happened during COVID, and I heard this from the chief education officer, is that not only the children had to adapt to being online, but the teachers had to as well.
Yes.
So
there was a whole training that went along with this Inspire project. So the teachers were trained, and obviously the students will be taught.
Right. If you saw the little video posted recently, fun fact, my son did that little video with the minister going around to the schools. He came to the office and was like, I need a video made with CapCut, and he had all kind of blinking things, the judge I just want to clean.
I did say that felt very youthful and
not Ivan, right? Oh, she took a jab. She took a jab.
I like to take that.
So
Ivan was my teacher,
Oh my
just
gosh,
to bring it
here
into
we
context,
go. Here we go. Father in heaven. So one of the things that he mentioned, though, was like some of the younger teachers they took the initiative to help the senior teachers kind of like gravitate into that vein, because truth be told, and we said it on the show with the chief education officer, if you're not going there, we're going to miss connecting with these students.
Yes.
So I am excited that this is going to be piloted. This is my thing. I keep telling people, and I'm holding my head now, there's so much going on through your ministry. You have a feeding program, unprecedented. I know Aurelia Kelly tried something, but that was by subscription. You had to pay. If somebody's going to pay to be a part of a feeding program, they're going to send their children to buy a Johnny cake, know. But this is without, parents don't have to pay. I've gone around to the schools. I see the children going to have lunch. It's walking. You're going to have a tech-ready school.
Yeah.
You know how much people can get into coding and NFTs and all the other things that we talked about based on.
And again, this is an example of a program we want to roll out to the other schools as well.
Exactly.
So we see how this goes.
Yes.
We evaluate, and then we plan from there. But another exciting thing related to sort of technology happening in education is the EMIS, which is the Education Management Information System. And it is a project that's being funded by the EU. And so we've gotten funding to procure a software company to provide the software. We've also hired a systems analyst that's also part of the project. And right now we're involved in the procurement process right now for the actual software provider. And then we look at how we roll out from there. So that's an exciting piece of news, and that's really to be able to collect educational data. It's also to be able to disseminate data and share with parents and teachers and whatnot, and
real
connect up the
time.
whole
Okay.
education
So
system.
it's not lost on a piece of paper that someone.
Exactly.
I have my
Exactly.
stories with that. So when a child is transferred or is going from one school to another.
It helps you to look at trends, helps you to look at transfers, all those things.
Awesome.
Yeah.
But
Awesome. I
this
think
will
that's-
make life easy for children going after college and applying and everything. They have an actual track record.
Yes.
This is cool. So the EMIS should be rolled out when?
Well, it's like I said, it's out for
Tender?
procurement
Okay.
now, and so hopefully in the next few weeks.
Great.
That's great. So we got a brand new fancy school with water fountains upstairs and downstairs. Yeah, I went over there. I'm bragging on Gleneva now. I still need to take over there 2 months now, but the school is amazing. The school is large.
It's beautiful.
One of the workers.
No, Ivan. You kept saying to me that the school is large, and from the road and from Umalulu, I can see it's a big school. I happen to have reason to go across there to take some. It's not large, Ivan. It's huge.
it's ginormous, gigantic, enormous.
Because I don't think that impresses the size
We're gonna
of
go
that
live
school.
there.
It really
It's
is.
large. It looks like a
major-
college campus.
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
So one of the workers that were there doing the painting, I was myself and Courtney Morton went over there. We left finance. We were checking on projects and doing things, and the guy said he heard me, but I didn't realize he heard me. One of the workers. I said, if these children don't learn, they're willful. We had rocks to walk to class on. You been to Campus A? You went Campus B?
No.
We didn't have Campus B with the courtyard. We went from we down in the musty music room with Ms. Jacobs and Mr. Vanderpool. Our science lab, the stools, you were rushing to class to get a good one because the rest were falling apart. They got everything up there.
Yeah,
they have their little counters built up. It looks like they work for some sort of Pfizer or something. The cleanliness of these rooms, the outfitting of these rooms. You don't want to see what they're doing for homework and stuff. The equipment in there.
It looks really nice.
I wanna stop you because I think you said that if the students don't learn that they're willful, but I kind of want to bring it back into how do we ensure that our students appreciate what they have. Because a lot of times we know our students don't necessarily appreciate what they have. We have issues with destroying property, and how do we, even before we get into that building, how do we ensure and instill a sense of, and this has been coming up quite often.
That's $1 million question.
How do we instill
in them that this
sense
is
of
ownership
yes,
and pride.
ownership and pride in what we have, and to want to ensure that future generations, because that's not a building just for the next 5 years,
No, definitely
but the
not.
future
And
generations,
it's not
their
finished. There's more buildings to come.
yeah, and their children will be using these buildings, even though you're not thinking about your children now, but how do we ensure that they understand that these buildings are meant to last, and they can only last if
You take care of them.
you take care of them.
I don't know, because there's brand spanking, the paint is fresh. That has to happen. No, like literally, I love it. Like, I love it. There's this whole administration block. Like, okay, we're gonna go there. We're gonna let folks see.
We're gonna do a live.
Yeah, we're gonna do a progress
yeah,
and go
yeah,
live
yeah,
there.
yeah,
And just at least walk it so they can understand why we're not there as well yet, because the construction is still going on.
Yes.
Few places are finished,
Yes.
but the entire project isn't finished. You can't have children going to school on a construction site. But that's with education. You have major amazing things happening there. What else falls under your remit?
So one of the exciting things we have coming up is the 17 Days of Activism. That's being spearheaded by the Gender Affairs Unit under Ms. Cameloy Murphy.
Okay.
And there are several activities planned, and I don't know them all out of my head, so I'm going to consult my phone.
Let's see if I can help you, because I was able to.
Oh, yes.
yes.
I tell you, she have all the information.
So we open with, on Friday the 25th of November, the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women and Girls, and they will be an address by the minister. We will also be having a rally
Yes, I'm so excited.
The Orange Anguilla Rally.
Yes.
The what?
Orange Anguilla Rally.
Orange
So we're
Anguilla
all going to wear orange to that rally.
Uh-huh.
And we're going to have messages, anti-violence messages.
Okay.
And we're going to take to the streets
Yes.
and raise awareness about gender-based violence.
And we're going to unite. I spent some time just speaking with Kimberly just last night and
So your reaction is everything.
looking at this, and I'm really excited about that rally. And there's some other things that we've discussed,
Yep.
and I won't say them now because I know that we want to have Kimberly on, and I'll let her get
We
into
won't
some
steal
of-
her thunder.
We won't, but the rally is one of those things that I'm very excited
And
about.
that's the 27th of November, Sunday.
a Sunday.
Okay.
And we are looking at having
Exodus
persons.
on the road.
Yeah.
I did say that. And Phil,
Okay,
I am telling you this on air. So yes, but we have a number of stops, and I know there are a number of stops that are planned. We're gonna start at two different ends. I know that's the plan, to start at two different ends and then converge.
She knows more than me.
in the valley.
She knows everything.
So I'm pulling this away from the PS because I am very much
excited.
excited about this. I really am.
Yeah,
And-
it is going to be exciting.
Yes.
What I love about what I'm hearing, the normal man would think that things just happen and nobody cares, but there's a lot of thought and
There's a lot of things going on in the background.
A lot of things going on in the background
that you
and
don't see.
That's and that's why we don't have a lot more of the issues that we could possibly have, because there are mechanisms, programs, policies, persons in place trying to address things. I know the one thing we hear is an ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure, and a lot of what you do is preventative. You're not just responding to something when it happens. And I must say, I appreciate that, and I think a lot of
Thank you.
persons in the community appreciates that. On that note, what else can we look forward to outside of this 17 days of activism?
We have the Malyahana Fest coming up, being spearheaded by the Department of Youth and Culture.
Okay.
So that's going to be. Last year we linked it with Tourism Week, so I think we're looking at engaging with tourism as well this
Okay.
year. And that will bring jazz in the park, and a number of other cultural activities. So that's something to look forward
So
to.
you touched something just now, and you didn't mention it before,
What's that?
but I think it falls under your ministry as well.
What do you think?
Carnival.
Yes.
Okay, so you're talking about festivals and stuff now. Anything you could tease us, tell us about Carnival 49?
No.
Anything about Carnival 50? No.
No.
Okay, we're gonna leave that
We're
there.
gonna leave that. We're gonna leave that.
I actually want to go back to the Malyahana Fest. Just for those who don't know, what is Malyahana Fest?
So it is an opportunity to appreciate some of Anguilla's culture. So it's the week that we do the cultural awards. We do jazz in the park. Last year, Gender did something on gender-based violence. There was also an exhibition where artists can display their goods, their art. So there's a number of different cultural activities that happen.
Is that what they do? Culture on the road as well?
Yes, thank you.
Nice.
Culture on the Road. And that schedule should come out very soon.
Oh.
And then I'll
Great.
So,
be able to tell you more specifically.
Yeah.
so you have all this stuff going on. How are you? I don't open my mouth and get in trouble. How are you documenting all of this? Because I heard the minister say that, the history being taught in school should be Anguilla history, but we're making history now. It's not just about the revolution. How are we documenting these things? And what impact do they have? Because you're always honoring somebody. You honor this person, that person. And where are we keeping this?
Well,
are we writing the history book for my
each-
grandchildren?
Each of the departments, every year they do an annual report. So it actually outlines all of the activities that they've done for the year.
Okay.
So that's one way we document it.
Okay.
Where is it kept? Because I'm actually going to go back to couple episodes where we spoke with Mr. Keystone Graves, and we were speaking about the whole idea of a government information system, which is pretty much, this is the baby beginnings, the foundations of a government information system. And one of the things that he said during that episode was to have national archives. And stored, and it's all in one central area.
Which brings up another department under my ministry, which is library services. They don't have an archivist in library services, but that is certainly something that we would want to look at.
You gotta look at the camera when you're talking money.
Yes.
But that's important.
Okay.
That's
It's very important.
Yes.
Very
because
important.
right now, so for instance, I know one of the conversations that has been occurring is the establishment of a new cultural center, and one of the thoughts exclusively they want to have a museum there. It's an attraction, but like we've done so much.
Oh, that's another thing under DYC. We are looking at establishing a museum at the old courthouse that's been refurbished.
Okay.
I had that conversation with someone the other day, and they were asking, which ministry does that fall under? Because great.
I tell you,
so if you don't know which ministry, it's usually on the social department.
Listen, it's not even hats over there. It's beach umbrellas. It's so broad.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
But that's cool, because I mean we need that. Like I think one of the disconnects that we have with, I don't want to call it that generational gap, I just want to call it a disconnect, is because nobody is right now. Let me correct that. Few people
Are documenting.
and talking about our history and where we fit in this grand scheme of things.
The museum is coming.
Good. We have Angolans all over the world doing amazing
Yep.
things, would have done amazing things, and you don't want me to touch that?
No.
Okay.
I don't want to, because I did shoot a project idea over to him.
Oh.
Because it yes.
About Angolians in the diaspora.
We got.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know if you've noticed, but the DYC's culture
Yes.
calendar,
Yes.
arts and culture calendar, features Angolians overseas
yes.
doing things.
You know what?
Yes.
I'm gonna. Yes.
Yes, they do. It's so much, and I look forward to next year, Ivan, when we can roll out
Yes.
that project. But that's a next year story.
Since we're not talking about Canada, we're not talking about that either.
No,
Okay,
we're not touching that. I want to hear a little bit more about the museum, if there's any information that you can give us on
we're
that.
still in preliminary stages, so I don't want to overstep. I don't want to say things before they're actually signed off on, but good things are coming.
Good things are coming.
Yes,
And this would be at the old courthouse in Crocus Hill.
that's correct.
Great.
You guys.
The old new one.
The old new one, right? Because it's being refurbished.
It has been refurbished.
It has been. Is it open? Can persons go there?
It's not
You can look at it
officially
from outside.
staffed yet, but it is the refurbishments are finished.
Oh, awesome.
Are we gonna do another one?
Do another museum?
Yeah.
I don't know. Anything's possible.
Come on. Look at the camera. I'm just thinking, we have one.
Let's get this one first.
Let's get this one first. All right.
Great.
Because I'm just thinking that there's a lot that you can fit in there. I think you can have different ones. You can have one specifically.
We can have
focused.
different exhibits
Right.
in the same museum, actually.
Okay. All right. Cool. That's what I'm talking about, because I would want to see arts. I want to see culture. I want to see farm. I want to see everything, because we from whence we came. That was a book that we did in primary school.
Yeah.
I got a good memory.
Gotta be very good, Ivan. Yes.
So,
Gotcha.
just quickly, talked about social development, education, talked about DYC. I want to know, and I think that most of these programs are linked in some regard. How do you go about doing that?
Okay, that is something that we really want to sort of zone in on this year. The budgeting, we're in the middle of the budgeting process. And so what we're really trying to do is come up with key priorities where we can all feed into. So we're not all competing for the same resources. We're actually working together to look at the whole human, or the whole family, the whole society. Because we often work in silos, but all of these things are interrelated. So it's important that we look at how we capitalize on what each other is doing. so that we use resources efficiently.
Okay.
So that is something we're really going to be looking at now, and we are getting some assistance, not just my ministry, but the entire government service from CARTAC.
Yes,
helping
I
us
was
look
in
at
those
priorities.
meetings,
Yes, looking at priorities and strategies and how we fund them.
I must say that that's unprecedented. That hasn't happened to that extent before. Of course, different departments would have worked with CARTAC.
We have had some in the past, but it's not. We're really trying to get it on stream because I think we started it and kind of fell off. And
and then some would carry it on because they see the benefit, but now it's holistic.
Yeah.
Like the budget process right now, what government is budgeting for would be linked to specific outcomes that they want to see, KPIs, more reporting standards. Like the money, you need to know where the money is going and what it's going for, and does it make sense? Because are we doing it just for this year? Are we doing it for 10, 15, 20, 50 years down the road? So I love the fact that there's a lot of planning and foresight that's coming to the forefront. Not to say that it didn't happen before, but it's coming to the forefront
now. Yeah, I think it needs more scrutiny. So I think it's a good thing.
And that's where I mean, and I'm putting a plug here. I know my PAS and my PSR are trying to find some funds, because one of the things that you don't have right now in government is proper web presence where this stuff can be documented, and they're trying to address that, because if anybody else across the Caribbean want to find out what's going on in social development in Anguilla, they're going to ring off your phone and send you 50,000 emails. Because you have so much going on, but you don't have central places to support all your things. And you can tell Kim, you put this online, person can find information there. Like, simple things, you know. You're going to address some of that where the EMIS is concerned, because people would have access to their children's records and those type of things. But that's going to also give you information to look at the educational trends in Anguilla. Like right now, jumping back to education, would you say there's any specific area we're struggling with in education, subject-based or anything like that? I have a slight problem. See, this is where we had gotten into some stuff, and I ain't getting emotional again. I got a slight little problem where education is concerned and the focus that's placed on the academic.
Well, you see, I was just going there. I was just going to say the focus, and our labor market survey bore this out. TVET. Technical training is really where it's at. That really needs to be our focus. And we've, as a ministry, have identified TVET and workforce training as key.
Like we needed, like after Alma, I keep telling Parsons, after Alma I needed an electrician. He was from St. Vincent.
Exactly.
The guy that cuts my yard is like from Dominica. My barber is from Santo Domingo. The guy that fixed the TV is from the Dominican Republic as well. Like, we're not gonna do that today.
No, we really are, and I'll tell you. I'll tell you, because when my daughter transferred into ALHCS, she was given options for the technical subjects, and her first option was hospitality start. But because she was a transfer student, that class had already filled up. So then she was placed in industrial arts, and they do it on a carousel. So I think they're doing, this term they're doing woodworks, next term they'll be doing automotive, and then I think metal work.
Okay.
And we were at home and we were having a discussion, and you know, there's a mechanic in the house, and so I'm saying, great, we can have two. You know, because I can tell you, a lot of times it wasn't subjects that were seen to be subjects for girls.
Right.
And so once she got placed into that, persons were, you know, the persons within the system are saying, well, let me see if I can get her. I'm like, no. Let her be exposed to it. And I think a lot of times it also takes the parents to say, I will allow my child to be exposed to these subjects, because sometimes we are fearful, and you go woodworks, you're walking with a saw, you're going to cut off your hand. A girl shouldn't be in cars.
Well, a girl can cut off her hand the same way a boy can.
Yes,
exactly.
And I think it's, you know, we celebrated the International Day of the Girl the other day, and I think it's important that we don't limit any of our students.
Very important.
So whether it is boys heading into food nutrition, and you know, when you look at some of the top chefs in Anguilla, and we spoke about
in the world,
and we spoke about the wine sommeliers, and you're looking at food and nutrition in those areas, you tend to see more male presence in that. Yet we don't want to encourage our boys to take up these subjects.
That is true.
So it's a strange dynamic
it is
that
a strange
happens.
dynamic.
But I want to say, don't limit your children. Don't limit them if they show a passion for something, or they have the opportunity to be exposed to something new.
But now that you say that, I just remember I had to make one of those smock things.
A smock dress.
Yeah,
Yes.
and
With the
I
black
hope
dresses.
they're gonna make EJ do that too, because I had to do it, and that's how I learned to sew. Like if you have to stitch up something, but those are life skills.
Yes.
Is it the case that those things still happen in the Department of Education in the school system? Is that carousel thing, or they choose and they don't have to do it?
I'm not sure about that particular one.
I think in the first 2 forms, they do a lot more of the carousel, and then by the time they get to third, so they do the carousel in the first 2 so that they are exposed, and by the time they get to third, then they have a better understanding of what's expected for each one, so then they can choose.
So let me ask you a question on this choosing thing. They can't vote at that age.
No.
That's a choice, but they can't choose that.
Right.
They can't drive.
No.
They shouldn't drive.
They can't legally
They
drive.
can't legally drive. And that's mandated. Children are given leeway to make certain choices, which I appreciate. How are parents involved, or what level of counseling, career counseling happens from first form, from grade 6, so they can start planning? I think a lot of times children may be thrust into something.
Yeah, no,
and
that's true. That's true.
how do we fix that?
Well, I think it takes from all sides. It takes the parents being involved. It takes the teachers reaching out. It takes the students being engaged, because clearly a child needs some guidance in these
Right.
things. So really the idea is to get as many people that influence that child involved in their learning.
What can you do from the department to start to look at more career planning or counseling from like very early? Like your daughter, when you come from Western school, they're exposed to all sort of things. Then she went to Omolulu. You've had conversations with me off camera about the little areas that they've been exposed to, and you just gave an excellent example of what I think the parents should do. Let them experience. But like even the arts, like when we just came off from celebrating the orange economy with the youth, and like those things aren't focused on. I still feel we make too much effort to get a 1 in English or 1 in maths.
Yes, we do.
And I'm tired of that, because then, like, how is the child holistically developing? I'll give you my children sing. So I think they came out of the womb not crying but singing, and they sing for everything. It frustrates the Jesus out of me sometimes, because I like a little piece in choir,
But they're singing.
but they're singing. But I can't strap that down, because that's their expression. Like, why aren't we seeing more plays and theater stuff coming out of the schools?
You guys ask hard questions.
We do?
Yeah.
I thought this was easy breezy.
This, I literally thought it
Well,
was
that-
the easiest episode ever.
It's a good question.
Uh-huh.
I don't know the answer to it.
Okay.
But I think it's something that we have to look at. We have to cultivate that. And you ask, how do we do that? We got to put our heads together on that.
Okay.
Is that something I know, because the minister spoke about it, and looking at curriculum redevelopment, and there's that
and
task force.
there's 3 task forces actually. One of them is looking at curriculum development. One of them is looking at teacher quality and leadership, and one of them is looking at methodology. So coming out of those task forces will be a series of recommendations that we will take on board. And one of the things we want to look at is this very thing you're talking about. Making sure that you're not just directing children to get 1s in English or whatever, that there is scope for cultural development and technical development and all those things, because I think the curriculum is so packed. It's so packed, and we've got to really look at how we can adjust that.
Yeah. I'm thinking that, because then football is going on now, and one of the complaints you get is like when the children playing football, they're not doing any school work, but sports is important
Sports
too.
is very important.
I'm going to leave that alone before I get in trouble.
Yeah, So we're speaking, and just as we look at the time and we wind down and wrap up, we started this episode by saying that the Ministry of Social Development looks at the entire being. It's the entire person, and that isn't just the entire adult person, but the entire child and their overall development. So whether that is
from cradle to grave.
There you go.
Everything in between.
And we didn't even get a chance to touch on elderly, and this is why we always have an open invitation for persons to come back.
Yes.
Okay.
because I know that there's stuff happening there as well, and room for discussion on that.
I would actually like to have a show focus on the elderly. My mom is 79 now. We have a few homes around. I see things happening for the elderly. I know even from a health perspective, they're looking at free health care for the elderly.
Yes.
There's a lot happening, so maybe we need to devote some time to that.
Yeah.
I would say
and we have a unit in the Department of Social Development that it focuses on elderly and disability.
See, so another beach umbrella.
There you go.
another hat, another beach umbrella. Wow. This has been great.
It has been
very interesting.
All right, we've had some things come to light. We've had a lot of information shared, and I just want to thank you for being here.
Thank you for inviting me.
I follow instructions. You just let us know when you can be back. You must know that this radio show podcast.
I have an open invitation.
You have an open invitation. If you get up tomorrow and you say, Ivan, I forgot to talk about this, you can come back.
Okay.
We can get that done.
We love doing part twos.
Yeah, we love doing part twos. We do. Let's make it happen because the information is not just pertinent. I think it's timely. And I think a lot of people would benefit from what you just shared.
Okay.
And the one thing I think persons need to understand from everything that you just shared is that the Ministry of Social Development is concerned about the holistic development, like you said, from the cradle to actually from the womb, because you do a lot of care there. You see, from the womb to the tomb.
No, the womb to the tomb.
No, behaving like my cousin Cello. From the womb to the tomb, you're concerned about that development, and I must say I'm happy and my heart is warm to understand a bit more about the ministry, because I know you do a lot. Yeah. I know persons have gripe with certain departments. I have gripe with some departments too, and that's me.
That's life.
That's life.
No matter how good we do, we're never perfect. And there's always room for improvement.
There's always room for improvement, but there's some exciting things happening. And whatever support you need in terms of getting the message out, you have an open invitation.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Progress report, and we'd help.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No, just again reiterating, thank you so much for joining us. And as usual, Ivan, this has been, for me, another enlightening... For us. An enlightening conversation. I am happy that you were able to join us today. I am certain our audience will appreciate and have gained some insight on a number of areas. So thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for joining us. And Ivan, over to you.
This has been another excellent episode of Progress Report. Thank you to our radio stations and partners, Dites, for getting the episodes on YouTube. Our producer, you don't see him, but we come here and then it's lights, camera, action. Mr. Carvel Fleming of Leverack Studio. He's the one that puts this all together. We just come, sit, ask the questions, have the conversation, and we're gone out, and then boop, you get an email. There's a team doing it, just like there's a team at Social Development. Our team is not as large, and I'm not saying that Social Development is large because I'm going to put another plug here. They need some staff. Areas need support. Hint, hint. Funding, money. And on that note, thank you for tuning in.
Thank you.
All right.